Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Our mission is simple: to make the profound teachings of Stoic philosophy accessible and practical for anyone navigating the challenges of contemporary living. We believe that the timeless insights of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus can transform how you approach every aspect of your daily existence. Today, we're exploring one of the most fundamental questions you'll ever ask yourself. What determines the trajectory of your entire life? Is it your circumstances, your background, the opportunities that come your way? According to the ancient Stoics, there's something far more powerful at work, something that's completely within your control. The Stoics believed that character is destiny. This wasn't just philosophical poetry. It was a practical recognition that your character, more than any external factor, shapes the course of your life. Think about it. You could lose your job, face bankruptcy, experience divorce, or encounter any number of setbacks. But none of these events can truly ruin your life unless they damage your character. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor who faced plagues, wars, and political turmoil, understood this principle deeply. He wrote that external events can only harm you if they corrupt your character. Everything else, every material loss, every disappointment, every unexpected challenge is recoverable. But character damage, that's what creates lasting devastation. This insight is both sobering and incredibly empowering. It means that regardless of what happens to you, you retain the power to preserve what matters most. Your character isn't something you're born with and stuck with forever. It's something you can cultivate, strengthen, and refine throughout your entire lifetime. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think character building is about grand gestures or dramatic moments of moral courage. The Stoics knew better. Character is built through daily choices, small decisions, and consistent practices that might seem insignificant in the moment but compound over time into something unshakable. You build character when you choose to read instead of mindlessly scrolling. You strengthen it when you ask yourself how you can make a positive difference today. You fortify it when you maintain perspective during both success and failure. You develop it when you treat difficult people as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. The ancient Stoics gave us a roadmap for this character development, not abstract theories, but practical tools tested in the crucible of real life. Marcus Aurelius applied these principles while governing an empire. Epictetus used them to transform from slave to teacher. Seneca employed them while navigating the dangerous politics of Rome. Today, you'll discover 7 essential practices that the Stoics used to build character that lasts a lifetime. These aren't just historical curiosities. They're proven strategies that work just as effectively in modern New York boardrooms as they did in ancient Roman forums. Whether you're dealing with workplace stress, relationship challenges, financial pressures, or simply trying to become the person you want to be, these time-tested principles will guide your transformation. Your character is your destiny. Let's build it together. 1. Build unshakable character through daily reading habits. You're sitting in your apartment after a long day, scrolling through social media when you notice your unread books stacked on the coffee table. They've been there for weeks, collecting dust while you've been too busy to crack them open. Sound familiar? You're not alone, but what you might not realize is that this simple choice, to read or not to read, is actually shaping your character and determining your future in ways far more profound than you imagine. There's a powerful story that illustrates why reading is the foundation of character building. It comes from the grandmother of George Raveling, a legendary basketball coach and civil rights activist. She told young George something that would change his perspective forever. The slave masters used to hide their money in books because they knew the slaves would never look there. This wasn't just a historical observation. It was a profound truth about power, freedom, and opportunity. The slave masters understood something that many people today have forgotten. There's genuine power in books. Not the kind of power that dominates others, but the kind that liberates you from ignorance, expands your perspective, and builds the intellectual foundation for strong character. When you avoid reading, you're essentially hiding from the very tools that could transform your life. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire at its height, was a voracious reader and student of philosophy. Despite having unlimited power and countless demands on his time, he made reading and reflection a daily practice. In his personal journal, which we now know as Meditations, he constantly references the wisdom he gained from other thinkers. He understood that character isn't built in isolation. It's developed through engaging with the greatest minds throughout history. Consider this scenario. You're facing a difficult decision at work. Your boss wants you to cut corners on a project to meet an impossible deadline. You could easily comply, blame the circumstances, and move on. But if you've been reading Marcus Aurelius, you remember his teaching that the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. If you've studied Seneca, you recall his insight that every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. These aren't just pretty quotes. They're practical tools that help you navigate real challenges with integrity. The Stoics viewed reading as a form of character training. When Epictetus taught his students, he emphasized that philosophy wasn't academic theory but practical wisdom for daily living. He encouraged his followers to read not for entertainment or even just education, but for transformation. Each book you read, each idea you encounter, either strengthens or weakens your character, depending on how you engage with it. Here's what makes reading uniquely powerful for character development. It forces you to step outside your own limited experience and perspective. When you read about how Viktor Frankl maintained hope in concentration camps, how Nelson Mandela emerged from prison without bitterness, or how Marcus Aurelius remained just despite immense pressure, you're not just learning history, you're training your mind to recognize character in action. But here's the crucial distinction. Not all reading builds character equally. Seneca warned against consuming information without reflection. He compared it to eating without digesting. It provides no real nourishment. The Stoics practiced what they called philosophical reading, which meant actively engaging with ideas, questioning assumptions, and applying insights to daily life. Picture yourself implementing this practice. Instead of passively consuming content, you approach each book as a conversation with the author. You ask yourself how these ideas apply to your current challenges. You take notes not just on what you've learned, but on how you plan to act differently. You discuss insights with friends, family, or colleagues, strengthening both your understanding and your relationships. The transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it's remarkably consistent. Within weeks of establishing a daily reading habit focused on character-building material, you'll notice subtle changes. You'll respond to stress differently because you've read about how others handled similar challenges. You'll make better decisions because you've exposed yourself to diverse perspectives and time-tested wisdom. You'll communicate more effectively because reading expands your vocabulary and clarifies your thinking. There's also a compounding effect that the Stoics understood well. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught that wisdom grows through small, consistent steps. Each day you read, you're not just gaining new information, you're strengthening your capacity to learn, think critically, and act wisely. The neural pathways associated with reflection and contemplation become stronger, making character-based decisions more natural and automatic. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully when he wrote about the importance of feeding your mind with worthy thoughts. He understood that character is largely shaped by what we allow into our consciousness on a regular basis. When you fill your mind with wisdom literature, philosophical insights, and examples of moral courage, these influences naturally shape your responses to life's challenges. The practical application is straightforward but requires commitment. Start each morning by reading for just 15 minutes from books that challenge and inspire you. Focus on classical philosophy, biographies of people you admire, or contemporary works on ethics and character. Don't just read for information, read for transformation. Ask yourself how each insight applies to your current circumstances and relationships. As Seneca reminded his students, we don't need to reinvent wisdom. We need to rediscover and apply the insights that have guided humanity's best thinkers throughout history. When you make reading a daily practice, you're not just gaining knowledge. You're participating in a conversation that spans millennia, learning from the accumulated wisdom of everyone who has faced similar challenges and emerged stronger. Ultimately, reading is one of the most democratic and accessible forms of character training available. Regardless of your background, education, or circumstances, you can access the same wisdom that guided emperors and shaped civilizations. The only question is whether you'll choose to open the book. 2. Become a positive difference maker every single day. You're rushing through your morning routine, coffee in hand, already thinking about the meetings, deadlines, and obligations waiting for you. Before you step out the door, pause for just a moment and ask yourself one simple question. How am I going to be a positive difference maker today? This isn't just feel-good motivation. It's a character-building practice that can transform both your daily experience and your long-term impact on the world. This powerful question comes from George Raveling, who understood something profound about character development. We become what we consistently practice. Every single day, through countless small interactions and decisions, you're either contributing to the common good or detracting from it. There's rarely a neutral position. The Stoics recognized this reality and built their entire philosophy around the idea that individual character and collective flourishing are inseparably connected. Marcus Aurelius, despite governing an empire with immense responsibilities, began each day by reflecting on how he could serve the common good. In his personal writings, he reminded himself that what's not good for the hive cannot be good for the bee. This wasn't abstract philosophy, it was practical guidance for daily decision-making. He understood that every choice, from how he treated his servants to how he responded to political challenges, either strengthened or weakened the fabric of society. Here's what makes this practice so powerful for character building. It shifts your focus from what you can get to what you can give. When you wake up asking how you can make a positive difference, you're training your mind to look for opportunities to serve, encourage, help, and uplift others. This mental shift doesn't just benefit those around you, it fundamentally changes who you become as a person. Consider this scenario. You're standing in line at the grocery store, when you notice the cashier looks exhausted and overwhelmed. The customer ahead of you is being unnecessarily difficult, complaining loudly about prices and store policies. In this moment, you have a choice. You could simply wait your turn, scroll through your phone, and remain uninvolved. Or you could see this as an opportunity to be a positive difference maker. A genuine smile, a kind word, or even just patient, respectful behavior can completely change the energy of that interaction. Epictetus taught his students that we're all actors in a play, but we don't get to choose our role. We only get to choose how well we perform it. Whether you're a parent, employee, student, or retiree, whether you're having a great day or struggling through challenges, you always have the opportunity to play your role in a way that makes things better for everyone involved. The beauty of this approach is that it works regardless of your position, resources, or circumstances. You don't need wealth, authority, or special skills to be a positive difference maker. Sometimes the most profound impact comes from the smallest gestures. Holding a door, listening without judgment, offering encouragement, sharing knowledge, or simply treating people with dignity and respect. Seneca understood this principle deeply. Despite his wealth and political influence, he often wrote about the importance of simple human kindness. He observed that we're all struggling with something, and every person we encounter is fighting battles we know nothing about. When you approach each interaction with the intention of making a positive difference, you're practicing what the Stoics called sympathia, the recognition that we're all part of one interconnected whole. But here's where many people misunderstand this practice. Being a positive difference maker doesn't mean being a people pleaser or avoiding difficult conversations. Sometimes the most positive thing you can do is offer honest feedback, set healthy boundaries, or stand up for your principles. Marcus Aurelius faced countless situations where being a positive difference maker required making unpopular decisions or having uncomfortable conversations. Let's say you're in a team meeting where a colleague is taking credit for work that isn't theirs. Being a positive difference maker might mean speaking up respectfully but firmly. It's not about causing conflict. It's about maintaining integrity and creating an environment where honesty and fairness can flourish. The Stoics understood that short-term discomfort often serves long-term good. This practice also has a remarkable effect on your own character development. When you consistently ask how you can make a positive difference, you develop what psychologists call an other-focused mindset. This naturally reduces anxiety, depression, and self-centered thinking. You become more resilient because your sense of purpose isn't dependent on external circumstances. It's rooted in your daily commitment to contributing positively to whatever situation you find yourself in. The Stoics believed that virtue is its own reward, but they also recognized that positive actions create positive cycles. When you make a genuine effort to brighten someone else's day, you often find that your own mood and energy improve as well. This isn't just feel-good psychology. It's practical wisdom that's been validated by thousands of years of human experience. There's also a learning component that George Raveling emphasized. You can learn from anyone regardless of their age, background, or circumstances. When you approach each day looking for ways to make a positive difference, you naturally become more observant and empathetic. You start noticing opportunities you previously missed. You begin seeing people as individuals with unique stories, challenges, and strengths rather than as obstacles or abstractions. The practical implementation is beautifully simple. Each morning, before you check your phone or dive into your to-do list, ask yourself, How can I be a positive difference maker today? Don't overcomplicate it. Maybe it's bringing coffee for a coworker, calling a friend who's going through a difficult time, volunteering for a project that serves others, or simply committing to bring more patience and kindness to your regular interactions. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote about waking up each day ready to work with difficult people, knowing that we're all part of the same human family. He didn't approach this as a burden but as an opportunity, a chance to practice virtue and contribute to something larger than himself. The transformation happens gradually but inevitably. As you make positive difference making a daily practice, it becomes part of your identity. You develop a reputation as someone who makes things better, who can be counted on, who brings out the best in others. More importantly, you become the kind of person you'd want to encounter in the world. 3. Find your cosmic perspective for instant inner peace. You're stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the freeway, already late for an important meeting, when your phone buzzes with yet another urgent email. Your blood pressure is rising, your jaw is clenched, and you're mentally rehearsing all the ways this delay is going to ruin your day. But what if I told you that in this exact moment, you have access to a simple mental technique that can instantly transform your stress into profound peace? It's called cosmic perspective, and it's one of the most powerful tools the Stoics gave us for maintaining inner tranquility. Marcus Aurelius developed this practice during some of the most stressful periods in human history. While managing plagues, wars, and political upheaval across the Roman Empire, he discovered that stepping back and viewing his challenges from a cosmic perspective could instantly restore his sense of calm and clarity. In his personal journal, he wrote about imagining himself among the stars, running alongside them through the vastness of space, gaining perspective on what truly matters. Here's how this works in your daily life. When you're feeling overwhelmed by immediate pressures, take a moment to mentally zoom out from your situation. Imagine yourself rising above your current location higher and higher until you can see your city, then your state, then your country, then the entire Earth floating in space. From this vantage point, your traffic jam becomes a tiny collection of metal objects on a small planet in an infinite universe. Your work deadline becomes one moment in the vast timeline of human history. This isn't about minimizing your challenges or telling yourself they don't matter. It's about putting them in proper perspective so you can respond with wisdom rather than react from stress. Marcus Aurelius understood that most of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our narrow, ego-centered interpretation of those events. When you expand your perspective to include the cosmic scale, you naturally access a sense of calm that's always available beneath the surface anxiety. Let's say you're facing a major disappointment at work. You didn't get the promotion you'd been working toward for months, and you're feeling frustrated, angry, and maybe even questioning your worth as a professional. This is exactly when cosmic perspective becomes invaluable. Instead of spiraling into self-pity or resentment, imagine yourself as part of the vast human story that has unfolded over millennia. Consider all the generations of people who have faced similar disappointments and setbacks. Think about the countless individuals throughout history who experienced rejection, failure, and redirection, only to discover that these apparent setbacks led them to even better opportunities. From this expanded perspective, your current disappointment becomes one chapter in a much larger story that's still being written. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on what he called the interconnectedness of all things. When you look up at the night sky and really contemplate the stars, You're seeing light that has traveled vast distances across time and space to reach your eyes. You're participating in a cosmic dance that connects you to every person who has ever lived and everyone who will live in the future. This recognition naturally cultivates humility and inner peace. The Stoics understood that we're not separate individuals struggling alone against an indifferent universe. We're part of one enormous, interconnected whole. Every person you encounter, every challenge you face, every moment of joy or sorrow you experience is part of this vast cosmic story. When you truly grasp this reality, it becomes much easier to approach daily difficulties with equanimity and grace. This practice is particularly powerful during moments of social media comparison or competitive anxiety. You're scrolling through LinkedIn, seeing former colleagues announce promotions and achievements, feeling inadequate and behind in life. This is the perfect time to employ a cosmic perspective. Zoom out from the narrow timeline of social media updates to the broader timeline of human achievement and purpose. Throughout history, every generation has faced unique challenges and opportunities. The measure of a life well lived has never been about outdoing others or accumulating the most impressive resume. It's been about contributing to the common good, developing strong character, and finding meaning in whatever circumstances you encounter. From a cosmic perspective, the person posting about their latest success is simply another human being doing their best to navigate life's complexities, just like you. Marcus Aurelius also used a cosmic perspective to maintain humility during success. When things were going well in his reign, when victories were won and prosperity increased, he would remind himself that he was just one small part of an infinite universe. This prevented him from developing the arrogance and entitlement that corrupted so many other leaders throughout history. You can apply this same wisdom to your own successes and achievements. When you receive recognition, accomplish a goal, or experience good fortune, take a moment to appreciate your place in the larger cosmic order. Your achievements are wonderful and worthy of celebration, but they don't make you superior to others or exempt from life's inevitable challenges. This perspective helps you enjoy success without becoming attached to it or defined by it. The practical application of cosmic perspective is remarkably simple and immediate. Whenever you notice stress, anxiety, frustration, or any form of emotional turbulence, pause and consciously expand your awareness. Look up at the sky if you're outside, or simply close your eyes and imagine the vastness of space. Remind yourself that you're part of something infinitely larger and more beautiful than your current concerns. This isn't escapism or denial, it's a realistic perspective. Your challenges are real and deserve attention, but they don't deserve to dominate your entire consciousness or steal your peace of mind. When you approach problems from a cosmic perspective, you often discover solutions that weren't visible from the narrow, stressed-out viewpoint you started with. Seneca wrote about this practice as a form of philosophical medicine. Just as physical exercise strengthens your body, regularly practicing cosmic perspective strengthens your emotional resilience and mental clarity. The more you use this tool, the more natural it becomes to access peace and wisdom in challenging moments. Ultimately, cosmic perspective reminds you that you're both insignificant and incredibly significant at the same time. You're one small part of an infinite universe, which means your problems aren't as catastrophic as they sometimes feel. But you're also a conscious, thinking being capable of wisdom, compassion, and positive impact, which means your choices and character genuinely matter in the cosmic story. 4. Master the art of focusing on what truly matters. You're sitting at your desk, overwhelmed by an endless to-do list that seems to grow longer every hour. Emails are demanding immediate responses, projects with competing deadlines, phone calls to return, bills to pay, and social obligations to manage. You feel like you're drowning in details, but here's the paradox. While you're told not to sweat the small stuff, you also know that details matter. So how do you distinguish between the trivial concerns that drain your energy and the essential details that actually build your character and move your life forward? This is one of the most practical challenges we face in modern life, and the ancient Stoics had a brilliant solution. They understood that the key isn't to ignore all small things, but to develop the wisdom to recognize which small things deserve your attention and which ones are simply distractions disguised as importance. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, captured this perfectly when he wrote that well-being is realized by small steps, but it's no small thing. He understood that character and success are built through countless minor decisions and daily practices. But not all small actions carry equal weight. The art lies in recognizing the difference between details that compound into something meaningful and details that simply consume your time and energy. Consider this scenario. You're preparing for an important presentation at work. You could spend hours perfecting the font choices, adjusting slide animations, and obsessing over minor formatting details that no one will notice or remember. Or you could focus on crafting a clear message, anticipating challenging questions, and ensuring your content genuinely serves your audience. Both approaches involve attention to detail, but only one builds your character and advances your goals. The Stoics called this practice the dichotomy of control, but it extends beyond just accepting what you can't change. It's about developing the discernment to identify which aspects of any situation deserve your focused attention and emotional investment. Marcus Aurelius faced this challenge constantly while governing an empire. Every day brought countless decisions, from minor administrative matters to major military and political challenges. His survival and effectiveness depended on his ability to quickly identify what truly mattered. Let's examine how this works in your daily relationships. You're having a conversation with your spouse about weekend plans when they make a comment that slightly irritates you. You have a choice. You can focus on the minor irritation, analyze their tone, and potentially escalate a small misunderstanding into a larger conflict. Or you can focus on the essential truth that this person cares enough to include you in their planning and wants to spend quality time together. The detail that matters is the underlying love and consideration, not the specific words or tone that triggered your momentary annoyance. This principle becomes especially crucial in our age of information overload. Every day, you're bombarded with news stories, social media updates, email notifications, and various other demands for your attention. The vast majority of this information has no practical impact on your life or character development. Yet many people consume hours of news about events they can't influence, in places they'll never visit, involving people they'll never meet. Epictetus taught his students to focus their energy on what he called their sphere of action, the areas where they actually have influence and responsibility. When you're tempted to spend 30 minutes reading about a political controversy or celebrity scandal, ask yourself, how does engaging with this information help me become a better person or make a positive difference in my actual life? Usually, the answer reveals that you're being distracted from details that truly matter. The practical application requires developing what we might call significance radar. Throughout your day, Pause regularly and ask yourself, is what I'm focusing on right now building my character, strengthening my relationships, advancing my meaningful goals, or serving others? If the answer is no, you're probably sweating the wrong small stuff. Marcus Aurelius demonstrated this principle beautifully in how he handled the constant stream of minor complaints and requests that came with governing. Rather than getting bogged down in every petty dispute or administrative detail, he focused on the broader principles of justice, wisdom, and service to the common good. He understood that a leader's character is revealed not in how they handle major crises, but in how they respond to the accumulation of daily decisions and interactions. Here's where this practice becomes transformative. When you consistently focus on details that truly matter, you develop what the Stoics called practical wisdom. You become someone who naturally gravitates towards substance over superficiality, meaning over distraction, and character-building activities over time-wasting pursuits. Think about your morning routine. You could spend 20 minutes scrolling through social media, absorbing random information and comparing your life to others' carefully curated posts. Or you could spend those same 20 minutes reading something that challenges and inspires you, planning how you'll serve others that day, or simply sitting quietly and preparing mentally for the challenges ahead. Both activities involve small details and brief moments, but one pattern builds character while the other merely fills time. The Stoics also understood that focusing on what truly matters requires saying no to many things that seem important but aren't essential. Seneca wrote extensively about the art of selective attention, noting that we often feel overwhelmed not because we have too much to do, but because we haven't learned to distinguish between what demands our attention and what simply demands attention. This principle extends to how you handle mistakes and setbacks. When something goes wrong, you can focus on blame, regret, and rehashing what can't be changed, or you can focus on what you can learn and how you can respond more effectively going forward. The essential detail in any failure is not the failure itself, but how it can contribute to your growth and wisdom. Ultimately, mastering the art of focusing on what truly matters is about developing clarity of values and purpose. When you know what you're trying to build, strong character, meaningful relationships, valuable contributions to others, it becomes much easier to recognize which details deserve your precious time and energy. Everything else becomes background noise that you can acknowledge without allowing it to dominate your consciousness. The transformation happens gradually but powerfully. As you become more skilled at identifying and focusing on essential details, you'll discover that you have more energy, less stress, and greater effectiveness in all areas of life. You're not working harder, you're working with greater wisdom and intention. 5. Choose hard work for success that actually lasts. You're facing a choice that will define your character more than you realize. Your colleague suggests taking a shortcut on the quarterly report, fudging some numbers, exaggerating certain results, and downplaying problems that might make the team look bad. It would save hours of work and make everyone look more successful in the short term. The alternative is staying late, diving deep into the real data, and presenting an honest assessment that might not paint the rosiest picture but reflects reality. Which path do you choose? This moment reveals everything about who you are and who you're becoming. The ancient Stoics understood that every time we face this fundamental choice between the easy way and the right way, we're not just deciding what to do, we're deciding who we are. Musonius Rufus, one of Stoicism's most practical teachers, captured this perfectly when he observed that if you accomplish something good with hard work, the labor passes quickly, but the good remains. If you do something shameful in pursuit of pleasure, the pleasure passes quickly. Why but the shame endures? Think about the most successful people you genuinely admire, not just those with impressive titles or bank accounts, but those whose success you actually respect. Chances are, their achievements came through sustained effort, ethical choices, and a commitment to doing things the right way even when it was more difficult. This isn't a coincidence. It's the natural result of understanding that true success isn't just about getting what you want, but about becoming someone worthy of what you achieve. The modern world constantly tempts us with shortcuts and quick fixes. Social media promises instant fame, get-rich-quick schemes promise effortless wealth, and various self-help approaches promise transformation without real effort. But the Stoics knew something that our instant gratification culture has forgotten. Anything worthwhile requires sustained effort, and the effort itself is part of what makes the achievement meaningful. Consider this scenario. You're learning a new skill that's important for your career advancement. You could take an online course that promises to make you an expert in just a few hours, or you could commit to months of deliberate practice, study, and gradual improvement. The shortcut might give you a certificate and some surface-level knowledge, but the sustained effort builds genuine competence, confidence, and the kind of deep understanding that serves you for years to come. Marcus Aurelius embodied this principle throughout his reign as emperor. Despite having unlimited power and resources, he chose to approach his responsibilities with diligent preparation, careful consideration, and moral integrity. He could have taken shortcuts, delegating everything to others, making popular but short-sighted decisions, or using his position for personal gain. Instead, he committed to the hard work of thoughtful leadership, even when it meant unpopular choices and personal sacrifice. The difference between shortcuts and hard work isn't just about immediate outcomes, it's about who you become in the process. When you choose the difficult path, you develop resilience, competence, and self-respect. When you choose shortcuts, especially dishonest ones, you train yourself to look for easy ways out and gradually erode your own integrity and capability. Seneca understood this dynamic deeply. Despite his wealth and political connections, he emphasized that true satisfaction comes from earning what you achieve through your own efforts. He wrote about the profound difference between possessing something you've worked for versus something you've obtained through luck, inheritance, or manipulation. The former builds character, the latter often weakens it. This principle becomes especially important during challenging economic times or competitive situations. You're job searching and discover you could embellish your resume to look more impressive, or you could invest the time to actually develop the skills and experience that would make the embellishments unnecessary. The shortcut might land you a job you're not qualified for, setting you up for stress and eventual failure. The hard work path might take longer, but it builds genuine competence and confidence. The Stoics also recognized that hard work isn't just about professional achievement. It applies to every aspect of character development. Building strong relationships requires the ongoing effort of listening carefully, communicating honestly, and being consistently reliable. Developing emotional resilience requires the sustained practice of facing difficulties without avoiding or numbing the discomfort. Cultivating wisdom requires the daily discipline of reading, reflecting, and applying insights to real situations. Here's what makes this choice even more crucial. In our interconnected world, shortcuts and dishonest tactics have a way of catching up with you. Social media and professional networks make it easier than ever for deception to be discovered. But more importantly, Every time you choose the shortcut, you weaken your own character and make it more likely that you'll choose poorly in future situations. Let's examine how this works in your personal finances. You could accumulate debt to maintain a lifestyle that impresses others, or you could live within your means while building genuine wealth through saving and investing. The debt-fueled lifestyle might provide immediate gratification and social approval, but it creates stress, limits your future options, and builds nothing lasting. The disciplined approach requires daily choices that might seem less exciting, but it builds security, freedom, and self-respect. Epictetus taught his students that we become what we repeatedly practice. If you repeatedly choose shortcuts, you become someone who instinctively looks for the easy way out. If you repeatedly choose hard work and integrity, you become someone who naturally gravitates toward doing things the right way, even when it's more difficult. The practical application is both simple and challenging. Whenever you face a choice between the easy way and the right way, choose the path that builds character even if it requires more effort. This doesn't mean being inefficient or making things unnecessarily difficult. It means being honest, thorough, and committed to excellence even when no one is watching. The transformation is gradual but inevitable. As you consistently choose hard work over shortcuts, you develop what the Stoics called practical wisdom, the ability to see long-term consequences and make choices that serve your highest values. You become someone others can trust and rely on, someone who earns what they achieve, and someone who can face any challenge with confidence. Remember Musonius Rufus's insight: the labor of doing good work passes quickly, but the good remains forever. Every honest effort, every ethical choice, every moment of disciplined work is building something that no one can take away from you. A character that can weather any storm and create success that truly lasts. 6. Turn difficult people into your greatest teachers. You walk into the office Monday morning, ready to tackle the week ahead. When you see that email waiting in your inbox, it's from that colleague, you know, the one. The person who always finds something to criticize, who takes credit for others' work, and who somehow manages to make every meeting more frustrating than it needs to be. Your heart sinks a little as you realize you'll be working closely with them on the new project. But what if I told you that this difficult person might actually be offering you one of the most valuable opportunities for character development you'll encounter all week? Marcus Aurelius understood this principle better than almost anyone in history. As Emperor of Rome, he dealt with senators who undermined his policies, generals who challenged his authority, and citizens who complained about his decisions. In his personal journal, he wrote extensively about the challenge of working with difficult people, but here's what made him extraordinary. He saw these challenging individuals not as obstacles to avoid, but as opportunities to practice virtue and strengthen his character. In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius actually opens with a detailed catalog of the types of difficult people he expects to encounter each day. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But notice what comes next. He doesn't suggest avoiding these people or writing them off. Instead, he reminds himself that they're acting this way out of ignorance of what's truly good for them, and that his job is to work with them constructively despite their difficult behavior. Here's the revolutionary insight that transforms everything. Difficult people are actually providing you with the exact type of training you need to develop unshakable character. Think about it. Anyone can be patient and kind when dealing with pleasant, agreeable people. Your true character is revealed and strengthened when you maintain your values while interacting with someone who's testing your limits. Consider this scenario. You're in a team meeting when a coworker interrupts you repeatedly, dismisses your ideas without consideration, and takes credit for a solution you proposed last week. You feel your frustration rising, your jaw clenching, your mind racing with all the ways you'd like to put this person in their place. This is exactly the moment when you have the opportunity to practice what the Stoics called the discipline of desire. The ability to maintain your inner peace and respond from wisdom rather than emotion. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave before becoming one of history's greatest teachers, understood better than most how difficult people can become your greatest teachers. He taught his students that every challenging interaction is a chance to practice virtue. When someone treats you unfairly, you get to practice justice by responding fairly. When someone is rude to you, you get to practice kindness by remaining civil. When someone tries to provoke you, you get to practice self-control by staying calm. The key insight is that you can't control other people's behavior, but you have complete control over your response. This isn't just philosophical theory. It's intensely practical wisdom that can transform your daily experience. When you stop expecting difficult people to change and start using their challenging behavior as training for your own character development, everything shifts. Let's examine how this works in your personal relationships. Maybe you have a family member who always finds something to complain about during holiday gatherings. Instead of dreading these interactions or trying to avoid them, you can approach them as opportunities to practice patience, compassion, and emotional resilience. Each cutting comment becomes a chance to respond with grace. Each unreasonable demand becomes an opportunity to set healthy boundaries while maintaining respect. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that difficult people are often acting from their own pain, ignorance, or fear. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you respond with understanding rather than reactive anger. When your difficult colleague snaps at you during a stressful deadline, you can choose to see someone who's overwhelmed and struggling rather than someone who's personally attacking you. The Stoics also understood that difficult people often reveal our own areas for growth. That coworker who always interrupts might be highlighting your own tendency to be too passive in meetings. The family member who pushes your buttons might be showing you where you're still too attached to others' approval. The customer who makes unreasonable demands might be teaching you how to communicate boundaries more clearly. Here's where this practice becomes truly transformative. When you consistently use difficult people as opportunities for character training, you develop what psychologists call emotional regulation and what the Stoics called practical wisdom. You become someone who can maintain their values and effectiveness regardless of how others behave around them. Seneca wrote extensively about this principle, noting that we often learn more from our enemies than from our friends. Friends tell us what we want to hear and support our existing beliefs. Difficult people force us to examine our assumptions, strengthen our convictions, and develop resilience. They're unwitting trainers in the gymnasium of character development. The practical application requires a fundamental shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "How can I avoid this difficult person?" start asking, "What can I learn from this interaction?" Instead of focusing on changing their behavior, focus on strengthening your own response. Instead of seeing their challenging behavior as something happening to you, see it as something happening for you, an opportunity to practice the very qualities you want to develop. This doesn't mean becoming a doormat or tolerating abuse. The Stoics were clear about the importance of appropriate boundaries and assertive communication. but it does mean maintaining your inner peace and responding from wisdom rather than reactive emotion. Sometimes the most character-building response is to calmly but firmly address inappropriate behavior. Sometimes it's to remove yourself from a toxic situation while maintaining your dignity. The transformation is remarkable. As you become more skilled at turning difficult people into teachers, you'll notice that these interactions become less stressful and more interesting. You'll develop a reputation as someone who can work effectively with anyone. Most importantly, you'll build the kind of character that remains stable and effective regardless of external circumstances. Remember Marcus Aurelius's insight: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Difficult people aren't obstacles to your success and happiness. They're opportunities to develop the very qualities that will make you truly successful and genuinely happy. 7. Stay humble and strong through every life change. You just received the phone call that changes everything. Maybe it's the promotion you've been working toward for years, complete with a corner office and a salary that finally matches your ambitions. Or perhaps it's the opposite news that your position is being eliminated, and you'll need to start over in a job market that feels increasingly uncertain. In either scenario, you're facing a fundamental test of character that will reveal who you really are beneath the external circumstances. The question isn't what happened to you, but how you'll respond to what happened. There's a powerful story that illustrates this principle perfectly. Ulysses S. Grant, who would later become one of America's greatest generals and eventually president, found himself in an incredibly humbling situation in the 1850s. This was a man who had graduated from West Point, served with distinction in the Mexican-American War, and seemed destined for military greatness. Yet due to a series of failed business ventures and personal struggles, he ended up working for his father, selling firewood on the streets of St. Louis. One day, a former classmate from West Point encountered Grant and was shocked to see this promising officer reduced to such circumstances. "Good God, Grant," he exclaimed. "What are you doing?" Grant's response reveals everything about character under pressure. He simply looked at his old friend and said, "I'm solving the problem of poverty." Grant didn't make excuses, didn't blame his circumstances, and didn't let his current situation define his worth as a person. He understood that this was simply what he needed to do to provide for his family, and he did it with dignity. This story becomes even more remarkable when you consider what happened next. Just a few years later, Grant would be commanding massive armies during the Civil War. A few years after that, he would be President of the United States. The man selling firewood and the man leading a nation were the same person, someone who understood that external circumstances don't determine internal character. Marcus Aurelius captured this wisdom perfectly in one of his most powerful insights. Accept it without arrogance. Let it go with indifference. This isn't about being passive or uncaring. It's about maintaining your equilibrium and sense of self regardless of whether you're experiencing success or failure, praise or criticism, gain or loss. Consider how this applies to your own life changes. You finally get that dream job you've been pursuing, and suddenly everyone wants to congratulate you, take you to lunch, and hear about your success. It's natural to feel proud and excited, but this is precisely when humility becomes crucial. The promotion doesn't make you a better person than you were last week. Your character, values, and fundamental worth remain exactly the same. The external recognition is wonderful, but it's not what defines you. Conversely, imagine you're facing a significant setback. Maybe your business fails, your relationship ends, or you're dealing with a health challenge that forces you to reassess everything. The world might see this as failure or misfortune, but your character doesn't have to change at all. You're still the same person with the same capacity for wisdom, kindness, resilience, and contribution to others. Epictetus, who experienced one of life's most dramatic changes when he went from slavery to becoming one of history's most influential teachers, understood this principle deeply. His external circumstances changed dramatically, but his commitment to virtue and wisdom remained constant. He taught his students that happiness and self-respect come from how you respond to circumstances, not from the circumstances themselves. The Stoics had a specific practice for maintaining this perspective during life changes. They called it the discipline of desire, the ability to want what happens rather than demanding that what you want must happen. This doesn't mean being passive or not working toward goals. It means holding your goals lightly enough that you can adapt when circumstances change, while holding your character firmly enough that it remains stable through any transition. Let's examine how this works in practice. You're going through a difficult divorce that's emotionally and financially draining. You could let this experience make you bitter, cynical, or closed off to future relationships. Or you could use this challenge as an opportunity to develop greater self-reliance, empathy for others going through similar struggles, and clarity about what you truly value in relationships. The external event is the same, but your character development depends entirely on how you choose to respond. Marcus Aurelius faced this test constantly as emperor. When military campaigns succeeded, he had to resist the temptation to become arrogant or assume he was personally responsible for every victory. When political challenges arose, he had to maintain his commitment to justice and wisdom rather than becoming reactive or vindictive. His meditations are full of reminders to himself to stay grounded regardless of external circumstances. The practice becomes especially important in our age of social media, where life changes are immediately broadcast and evaluated by others. You get a new job, and suddenly your LinkedIn notifications explode with congratulations. You face a setback, and you're tempted to either hide it completely or share every detail for sympathy. The Stoic approach is to remember that neither praise nor pity changes who you are fundamentally. Another translation of Marcus Aurelius's insight puts it this way: receive without pride, let go without attachment. This captures something essential about navigating life changes with grace. When good things come, enjoy them fully, but don't let them go to your head. When difficult things happen, face them honestly. Why, but don't let them define your sense of self-worth. The Stoics also understood that power and position create particular temptations. Marcus Aurelius regularly reminded himself not to be stained purple by the cloak of the emperor. He knew that unlimited power could corrupt his character if he wasn't vigilant about maintaining humility and perspective. This principle applies whether you're managing a small team or running a major corporation. The more external power you gain, the more important it becomes to maintain internal humility. Caesar serves as the perfect counterexample. His rise to power gradually corrupted his character until he became someone who couldn't tolerate any limits on his authority. Cato understood this danger and resisted Caesar's consolidation of power precisely because he knew that absolute power corrupts absolutely. The Roman Republic had checks and balances for good reason. The transformation comes through consistent practice. Every time you face a life change, whether positive or negative, you have the opportunity to strengthen your character by responding with both humility and strength. You accept what happens without letting it inflate or deflate your sense of self, and you respond with wisdom rather than emotion. The 7 practices we've explored today aren't just ancient philosophy. They're a blueprint for building the kind of character that can weather any storm and create lasting success in every area of your life. From the moment you commit to daily reading habits that expand your perspective, to the day you naturally turn your most challenging relationships into opportunities for growth, you're participating in a transformation that has been guiding humanity's greatest leaders for over 2,000 years. Think about where you were when we started this journey together. Maybe you felt overwhelmed by life's demands, uncertain about how to handle difficult people, or struggling to maintain perspective during challenging times. Now you have 7 proven tools that the Stoics used to build unshakable character. The power of daily reading, the practice of being a positive difference maker, the peace that comes from cosmic perspective, the wisdom to focus on what truly matters, the strength that comes from choosing hard work over shortcuts, the growth that emerges from difficult relationships, and the humility that keeps you grounded through every life change. But here's what makes this transformation truly powerful. These aren't separate techniques you use occasionally. They're interconnected practices that reinforce each other daily. When you start each morning by reading wisdom literature, you're preparing your mind to be a positive difference maker throughout the day. When you maintain cosmic perspective during stressful moments, you naturally focus on what truly matters rather than getting lost in trivial concerns. When you choose hard work over shortcuts, you build the character strength that helps you stay humble during success and resilient during setbacks. Marcus Aurelius understood that character development isn't a destination you reach. It's a daily practice you maintain throughout your entire life. Every morning presents new opportunities to strengthen these habits. Every challenging person you encounter is a chance to practice patience and wisdom. Every success or failure is an opportunity to maintain proper perspective and continue growing. The beautiful truth about Stoic character building is that it compounds over time. The reading habit that seems small today builds into profound wisdom over months and years. The daily practice of making a positive difference creates a reputation and relationships that support you through any challenge. The cosmic perspective that calms you during stress gradually transforms into unshakable inner peace. You now have access to the same character-building principles that guided Marcus Aurelius through governing an empire, helped Epictetus transform from slave to teacher, and enabled Seneca to maintain wisdom through political turbulence. These tools are as relevant and powerful today as they were 2 millennia ago. Your character truly is your destiny, and you now have the ancient wisdom needed to build character that lasts a lifetime. The only question is whether you'll choose to apply these practices consistently, day after day, until they become as natural as breathing. If this video has provided value for your personal growth journey, please hit that like button to help us reach others who could benefit from these timeless insights. Subscribe to the Stoic Vivu channel for more practical philosophy that transforms daily life, and share this content with anyone who's ready to build unshakable character. Together, we're creating a community of people committed to living with wisdom, virtue, and genuine strength. Your transformation begins with today's choices. Make them count.